Are we ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, we're ready. Da-na-na-na. Da-na-na-na.
This is great.
This will be thing.
A thing.
Can I be?
Thing.
Wait, can I be thing one?
That's Dr. Seuss, motherfucker.
I'm just saying. You know, there's multiple things.
Are we counting down?
Hello. This is Hot Topic Flow.
And this is MiHi.
And this is Crayola Killer.
The Crayola Killer is back in the box
You know it.
with us. Yes! So today we're going to be talking about anxiety, panic attacks, depression, all of which I know you and I have greatly experienced. Every human has experienced some form of anxiety. Right, Crayola Killer?
Yes.
Shall we go across the couch and say what ails us? I'm just saying, I suffer from major depression, panic disorder, and agoraphobia.
Got you. I have anxiety, so I take medication for that. Not as bad as it used to be. At one time, I also suffered from not only generalized anxiety, but panic disorder and agoraphobia. And I was so bad at one point, I checked myself into a mental ward.
Brutal. I also have mild PTSD, so there's that.
Great.
Well, I got PTSD, anxiety, and depression. Yeah.
Wow.
Yay! We're the winning team here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So glory. So glory. I feel glorified in this. God, so much love.
But I think the basis of this is to show people that you maybe you don't get over it, or some people do, or you can. But you can get better, and there's hope, right?
You're not alone.
You are not alone. Everyone goes through it. Like, I don't care. If you say you don't, you're fucking not a human.
You're fucking lying. You're lying to yourselves.
Lying.
Yeah. I used to be there at one point. Yeah.
Because I get it. It's embarrassing.
It is at times, but there's some times where it's ability to understand, so to speak. You know, because some people, it's just that, like, I didn't know what anxiety was because, you know, I used to only hear what people, you know, talked about. And then when it happened to me, and realizing that, you know, after the incident that happened to me in Afghanistan and things of that nature, that's when it really kicked in, and I really didn't know what it was until someone explained it to me, and they go, well, that's whatever you're feeling and whatever you're describing, that's, you know, what it is.
Oh my god. It's like when they show it on movies and stuff, but the people when they're having these issues still look pretty.
No.
And meanwhile, I'm sitting here having a panic attack and foop, I'm on the floor looking like goddamn Magikarp.
Yeah.
I don't know why that immediately just popped in my head. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I'll ask you guys, when did you notice anxiety starting in your life, and give me some of the symptoms you had?
I was legitimately 17. It happened really quickly. I was 17, and for some reason, for the life of me, I don't understand, but I just kept passing out. And we couldn't figure out why the hell I was passing out. And we thought it might been hyperglycemia or something, because I would get, the facial flushing, the heart racing and shit like that. And there's just no, you have anxiety. And I'm just super, can you get me to stop passing out?
Right.
And I hated the idea of being medicated, but unfortunately it was the only way for me to actually do anything. but the anxiety ended up getting so bad, I dropped out of high school, and then I didn't leave my house for 4 years. Legitimately, I did not leave my house for 4 years.
Damn.
Oh, yeah.
So that's exactly where the agoraphobia kicks in, because you are fearful that you're going to leave your house and something bad's going to happen and you're going to flip out, you're going to lose your mind, you're going to die. Like, I've had all those thoughts, so totally understand that. What about you? Like,
Well, mine, of course, started after I was injured in Afghanistan. It was a big deal for me because, I mean, that was going through a lot of emotions that I didn't even understand. Because before, prior to the military service, it was just something that everyday life, like, hey, I lived life to the fullest, didn't really think about it, didn't really worry about it too much, and didn't really understand it because obviously I can't talk about things that I never really went through, or be one of those people that claim they have something and they really don't. So me not understanding it didn't really bother me until after service and after I was injured, and I started noticing a lot of things of paranoia and my anxiety constantly going through the roof, and my heart rate going full 90 miles an hour, and especially with a big high, like having high and low moments, and my up and downs, and constantly having to worry about certain things that I do, and now I learn to control it by doing certain things, and like a prime example being is, like if I go out to a restaurant, my back has to be against the wall and looking at the front door, and a lot of people think that's weird, but it's one of my triggers to see, like, I have to, if I can't face the door, my anxiety goes up and I start having to look back, like, okay, what?
It's just like, who's back there?
Like, who's coming behind me? Because I don't like, it used to not bother me so much, for example, like when people walked up behind me, like, hey, oh yeah, you're there. But now it's like, I do not like when people stand behind me. I
don't like
can't
that shit.
stand it. I can't. Like, it's just one of those things where if I felt someone standing behind me, I'd have to say something immediately. Otherwise, my anxiety is just going to be, and I can feel it. And it's just like, all right, you're going to, are we going to make love? What are we going to do? Because you're standing this close to me. Like, are you trying to get my number or something? What is it? Like, if you're not, get the hell away from me. That's essentially what it was,
Is there a bug on me?
And
Let me
then
know.
when I actually went to the doctor the first time and, explained to him the things that I was feeling, and he goes, well, that is this, that is that, that is that. So that's what you're feeling and experiencing. And I, wow. I never really knew that because I didn't know what it was like. I didn't really have those experiences, so to speak. And now when I have to explain myself to a doctor and tell them, like, hey, this is what I'm facing, this is what I'm looking at, and what I feel, and they go, well, that's, I hate to break it to you, but those are signs of anxiety, depression, PTSD moments. So
And
a big
it's not
challenge.
like they show you on the commercials where they're just like, are you feeling sad?
They don't have those no more. Why? And I'm just
Because
like,
they're so inaccurate. Like, especially for people that are like high functioning, that have a lot of mental disorders. I'm just like, my anxiety attacks don't look like that. My depression doesn't look like that. The first time anyone ever told me I was depressed was like at the beginning of this year. It was the first time a doctor ever looked at me and was just like, oh, your depression's really bad right now. I'm like, I'm depressed? I was like, since when? And then I'm like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense.
oh yeah.
I know some of my symptoms were, it always felt like a rush, and it was like a coldness that it started in my head, just this weird feeling like fear, panic, right? Like something bad's gonna happen, but I don't know what it is, and then it would just run all down through my body, and then the heart, like you guys discussed, the palpitations, the panic. I sat around constantly taking my pulse, Oh my God, my heart, it's too high. I'm going to have a heart attack, and, negative. And you're just adding more fuel to the fire. It's, anxiety is a vicious cycle, right? Like, you feed it, because if you think about it, it's about being in control. And it really is. It's about your fear of not being in control and losing control. Like, you have to set where you can see the door, like, in case I have to bolt or I can see who's coming in. Like, you have to be in control of that situation.
Yeah.
Because if you aren't in control of that,
then the anxiety just shoots through the roof, and you're constantly wondering, whether it's someone behind you or something going on. And just it's basically being worried about the unknown, the possibilities that you don't know, and the possibilities that you do know as well. Because obviously, me putting my back to the door, obviously on a regular old day would be just your average Joe Schmo walking through the door, ready to get food or order some food or things of that nature. But then it's just in my mind that it's like what ifs. It's like those big what ifs that run in your mind, and it's just something that literally is like, okay, there's a what if, and every time you contemplate a what if, it builds and it builds and it builds and it builds.
and that is huge. What if thinking. I actually got better by going through a program. And for anyone out there who's suffering with the anxiety, depression, panic attacks, I'm going to throw this out there. There's a program out there called the Midwest Center for Stress, Anxiety, and Depression. And back in the day when I went through the program, it was a workbook and cassette tapes, right? And it was 16 weeks long. And each cassette tape coincided with a lesson, right? So you'd listen to the tape and then you'd do the lesson in the workbook. And that's how I got over, there was a point I was having 21 panic attacks a day, And like I said, I checked myself into a mental hospital. I'll never forget sitting there and the intake guy was like, "You don't want to do this. You don't belong here." And I'm like, "Yes, you do. You don't understand." Because I had scary thoughts, right?
You feel fucking crazy.
You do. You. My scary thought was, I'm going to hurt myself. I'm going to harm myself. What if thinking, what if I kill myself? What if I'm driving down the road and I just drive my car into the tree? What if building more anxiety? At the time, you don't know that though, right? You're adding that fuel to the fire.
Yep.
And the guy doing the intake, he's like, "Man, you don't want to check yourself in here because you're not like these people." And I'm like, "No, you don't understand." I felt safe in a medical surrounding.
Yes.
I felt safe. Like, if something happens, I'm safe because these,
They're doctors. They know what to do.
yeah, they're going to help me. But I checked myself in, and back then, once you checked yourself in, you were in there for 14 days. And I got to tell you, I didn't belong in there because you see some people who are seriously mentally ill there, schizophrenia and all kinds of things. And I think that only made me worse.
On a side note, I never realized how brutal schizophrenia was until I watched a video that simulates it. And my God, I would have killed myself. Good Lord, it's terrifying. I'm just like, good Lord, what the fuck? I was like, I guess my issues aren't really that bad.
That's what most people have, and that's what brings a lot of doubt to people's minds, where you think you're going through something, and then sometimes, I'm not saying all the time, but sometimes it does happen where people think that they're going through the worst thing in the world, and then they see someone way worse condition, and it's just like, wow, okay, I'm bad, but not that bad. That's pretty damn bad.
Yeah. Not saying we're measuring traumas or anything.
We're not. Totally not. But it's just it's creating that what that does do is that it creates the doubt that you don't have an issue, but in real actuality the issue is still there. It's an issue nonetheless, and because I always tell people anxiety is anxiety no matter what level it's at, doesn't matter, you still have it. It's just seeing the right people, finding the solution to have some control over it, so that way you can continue on living your life the way you want to live it.
Absolutely agree. I mean, do you feel that Flo, do you think you're as bad as you were when you were younger?
Definitely not. Eventually I got to the point where I was fucking sick of it. I was just like, you know what? I want to be better. I want to get better. So I got enrolled back in school, finished in about half a year, and then I ended up enrolling in medical school. And for everyone else, this, like, it doesn't seem like big accomplishments. It's like, oh, it's the natural progression of life. But no, I went from not leaving my house, not even to go to the grocery store, to finishing school and putting myself through higher education.
That's major. Like, that's a major accomplishment for someone that suffered that badly.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know,
But I
damn.
feel as if I learned how to cope better. That's the thing. I don't think I'm any better than I was. It's just I think I learned how to handle it better.
So, like, coping skills got better.
Because, like, when you're young, everything seems freaking traumatic. Like, everything makes you freaking anxious. It's a terrible fucking time period. High school's terrible. I don't care what anyone says. So everything seems like it's major. But during this time, my mom started going through all her surgeries and she became disabled. And I ended up running the household. So I had to take care of my mom, made sure my dad had lunch and dinner, made sure my niece had breakfast and lunch so she could go to school. She was still in elementary school at the time.
Oh, wow.
I had to make sure the bills were paid.
Damn, that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
But it actually helped me cope better as an adult.
That makes sense. What about you? Do you feel that it's gotten better? And if so, what do you think helped?
Well, I when it first initially started happening, like a prime example, when I first started, I woke up in the hospital one day. Didn't even realize I was actually in the hospital, and of course, I spent like 3 days there, and after my injuries and all that stuff, and one day they actually had to do what's called a nerve block on me, where they paralyzed one side so they can do what's called a debris removal. And going the day after that surgery, going to sleep, and then waking up in bed restraints, it kind of shocked me a little bit because I didn't know what happened.
Wow.
And when the nurse walked in, I asked her what happened and why am I in bed restraints, and it was because that she was brand new, she didn't know, especially for veterans suffering from PTSD and things of that nature. It was just one of those things where I had a natural ability that while I was sleeping, where I had an ability to just reach out and grab something, and it ended up happening to be her throat.
Ow.
And of course, the way they instruct in certain hospitals is that if you have a patient that has been through a traumatic experience, you don't wake them up at their chest. You wake them up at their feet. Give them light taps on the bottom of the foot. Gives them time to let them jerk themselves out of a sleep and be like, all right, let them get their bearing, let them get their surroundings, and then just you take a step back and let it happen naturally, because obviously people don't recognize immediately where they are, and they forget a lot of where they are at that moment. And it was bad because there were times I'd wake up in the middle of me sleeping and then reach over the edge of the bed, assuming that I think I was reaching for my weapon, we were under attack or something. And as from then compared to now, I can actually wake up and because me personally, like, I did not personally want to go through dealing with a lot of medications, because I've seen a lot what medications have done to veterans, even in people in general. Just the first thing that most hospitals, including the VA, will do is just throw medication at you and assume that's the first step that they're going to try, and hopefully it works.
Right.
And that doesn't work for everybody.
No.
So the first step I took to myself is that, obviously if I wanted to get better, like you stated before, I wanted to get better, I wanted to find different ways, but I wanted to find more natural ways. I wanted to find something that was all natural, organic, and, Of course, I'm not preaching any products here or anything like that.
Marijuana.
But it was just me looking for ways other than medication to subside these incidences and these thoughts and these anxieties and, depression and PTSD moments. And I started doing a lot of research and a lot of digging. And from where I was then to now, I feel like I can literally go to sleep without having to worry about, if someone's laying next to me, am I going to hurt them while I'm sleeping and not remember it, or things of that nature. There are still some triggers that I still work on. Primarily, it happened one day when I was sleeping, and someone that I was with actually jumped on me while I was sleeping, and immediately triggered that moment. And it was like throwing them in a headlock, and then like realizing when they started tapping on my chest, on my arm, or something of that nature, it immediately just release. And then I go, okay, all right. But now, looking back at it now, it's still progressing to today where I can actually go to sleep and wake up normal, just comfortably, And for me, that was a big step, because the first thing I had to admit was that I had a problem, and trying to talk to people to find ways and different things, not necessarily doctors or therapists, but people that would recommend me, point me in the right direction that I wanted to go, because well, first and foremost, I did not want the medication, and that for me was a hindrance, because I saw a lot of research on these things where, for a prime example would be if you take ibuprofen or Motrin for long periods of time, it will eat away at your intestines, and you have to have surgery to get that cut out, things of that nature. I just didn't want to go that route. I wanted the natural route. And for me, I felt like I progressed a long ways, because it was from always freaking out to I can wake up comfortably and be all right.
And that's, that's important. And by no means are we saying that if you are currently taking medication for anxiety or depression, we're not telling you that's a bad thing at all. Because, and I've even said this to you, Flo, that medications can get you over that hump, right? Because there's certain things with anxiety and depression where maybe you're not eating, maybe you're not sleeping, and medications can help with that. But again, there's no magic bullet, there's no magic pill that's going to make you think happy thoughts. Like, you have to put in the work. And if you're on medication to get you to that point to put in the work, then that's okay. Like, no one should be shamed for, it's like if you had diabetes, right, you're going to take insulin for it. You're not going to be like, oh, fuck that, I'm not going to take medication, because you're going to die.
Because what I've always told people is, one method may not necessarily work for another. Me finding natural ways may not work for everybody, and it doesn't. That I will say that if you feel like you need to take medication, take it, and if you feel like it's working, it's working. But there are other ways, and I've always said explore. But if you feel it's certain ways, and like I said, one way a person may find a solution may not work for many. That's one of my biggest things, because like I said, it's always constantly doing the research and the motivation and the drive to want to get better and find different ways.
I mean, mine's like a combination of medicine and more natural ways. Do a lot of art. That helps.
Oh, you can draw your ass off. I'll admit that one.
I do a lot of baking. I find it very therapeutic.
Oh, yeah, and the chocolate chip cookies.
Oh, the lemon meringue pie.
No, I like the chocolate chip. So much better. Fluffy.
Fluffy.
Like a fluffy cookie.
Good stuff. So is that how you get some release from that? Is just
And also giving it to people too. Like, seeing other people like enjoy something I do that helps with my anxiety helps it just a little bit more, because it's kind of my love language in my own awkward old lady kind of way. It's like I need to feed the people.
Yes, and you do a great job of feeding me. So much better.
Awesome. But
what another one of our friends calls the love cooking.
Yeah.
Yep, the love cooking.
You know how I walked out of here the other night after we taped, and you gave me a bag of cookies,
Yes,
right?
the cookies.
The cookies. And they were delicious, right? So I gave Sean, the husband, one, and he's like, "Oh my God, these are fucking good." I'm like, "Yeah, they're amazing."
It's like crack.
Yeah. But here's what happened today. There were 2 cookies left in that bag, right?
Oh, no.
No, this is bad. And I was sad and I was mad. You know that fucking turtle car wash that's on the strip with the fancy lights and shit? Well, they gave me a air freshener to hang on the mirror. Yeah. It's still in its plastic, okay?
Oh, God.
Still wrapped, laying down here in the console. And Flo's cookies are still in the Ziploc bag, right?
God, did the smell like affect the cookies?
Cookies were on top of that. Sean, today we were out, and he's like, "Ah, the cookies." So he unzips it, and he's like, spitting it out in his hand as we're going down the road. I'm like, "What the fuck are you doing? Those are Flo's cookies."
You don't spit out goodness. What's wrong with you?
He's like, no, something's wrong with it. Taste it. And I'm like, how's this possible? So I tasted the other one, and sure enough, it was like fucking coconuts and suntan lotion and everything horrible.
Tastes like new car.
Like, I don't know how it seeped through the plastic and then through the plastic bag, but it did.
No,
Chemicals are bad.
There have actually been times I've threatened people over her cookies.
Yeah.
I'd be like, "You touch my cookies, you will die."
It's just
I've
like
killed people for less.
you will lose fingers.
Yeah, I will strangle you and then just say that it was just an accident.
Oh, just like one of the guys that used to work at the crystal place. He was just like, I would literally kill for a crumb of my cookies. And that was like a big thing because he had a super huge crush.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow.
I was just like, oh. I was like, I will take that as a compliment.
Right on.
Yeah.
You should do a cookie
Wait, was that the
and
Blondie?
coffee
Was
shop.
that the
Yes.
Oh God, he also had a thing for me too. Yeah.
That's what I just said.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Sorry, I'm slow to catch on to those things.
But okay, so we talked about like your fear of hurting people, but there's also the huge fear of people hurting us.
Yes.
Because let me tell you, like, the reason why I tried pulling back on being such a giver is because I was always there for people, like, always did everything for people, tried to help where I could, and then this traumatic moment happened in my life, and poof, everyone was gone, and I felt like the hugest burden in the world, and like, literally my best friend who I knew from kindergarten all the way up until adulthood literally only had me around to watch her kid. Because where was I going?
Right.
Like, I was in the house, but she could go out and live her life, and it's just like, oh, okay, fuck me, I guess. And it was traumatic. Like, it's just like, okay, now I just don't want to fucking deal with people because if this is how it's going to be and I'm going to be this fucking burden that everyone's going to use and then drop, what's the point?
Yeah, that's another good side of that. The whole thing. I guess I didn't realize that you were like housebound like that. I mean, I still made myself get out and do things, just because I know I didn't want to get to that point, right? But I always, because I was married at the time, and I always made sure that I had Julie with me because she was my safe person, right? Had a safe person. I felt safe. If something was going to happen, my safe person's here.
That's my safe person at work, right there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There are times where she'll call me and like I remember one time we had the schizo guy come in.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, that was something. And I'm not gonna lie, like that was the first time, other than my girlfriend. So I get on, like I said, I get to the back door and I get a call and hey, I need your assistance like immediately, and the first instinct in my mind was immediately run, like run, just run, like assume something is wrong, and something in my mind told me something was wrong because she's like 4'0", no offense. You know. And I tell you, make fun of your height all the time. But as I get there, there's this guy who's like about my height, and I'm 6'2", and this guy's towering over her, just like attempting to scream at her, and immediately was like, instantly was like, oh hell no, no, not my Cookie Monster. So I had to step between him and her, and I was like, if you're gonna be violent with me. I crave the violence because I'm not gonna allow someone to bring that type of violence to someone smaller than themselves. You know, it's essentially being a bully.
Right.
And one thing I don't tolerate is bullies. And immediately, like, it was like jump into action. So I jumped in between them, like, okay, bring the violence. Now you're gonna bring it to me. And as soon as he saw someone about the same height, if not bigger, I was probably a little taller than him. But as soon as he saw me, he immediately changed direction, changed his whole attitude, and walked away. And ever since then, I was like, no, like, if she needs me, I will be there. Like, I ain't got no problem.
I think you were there for that situation.
Was
Were you there that day?
I don't remember.
Because
that.
I don't, we still don't know what the hell was wrong with that dude, whether he had mental problems, if he was on drugs or something, but he, like, kicked the freaking step stool and broke it, and
that guy was throwing all his money at me, threw his car keys at me.
Oh, yeah, no, I didn't hear
And the
about
crazy
this.
part about it is what really blew my mind about that situation was that, was the fact that he had been poking his head, and I to a certain degree, I understand, you know, but the thing is that I always tell people there's a certain level of crazy that people are willing to go. There's crazy that people just don't care, and you can call the cops on them and they will still be there. And then there's the type of crazy that they're crazy but they're not stupid. And as soon as they see the cops being called, they'll leave. And he was crazy, but he wasn't stupid. And as soon as he heard JPD being called, and immediately just
took off.
Okay, I'm like, wait a minute, how are you looking or any way, shape, or form acting this crazy, and yet you're mindful, you're there mentally to drive off.
And the crazy part is like, I had encountered this particular gentleman once before, and he was completely of sound mind, like, knew what he was doing, carried full conversations, everything. Was peaceful, everything. And then, like, the next 2 times having to deal with him, good Lord.
Really? So, do we think he was actually maybe had a problem?
I have no idea. What scares me, though, is, like, when I was, like, the 3rd time walking him out to his vehicle, we had another coworker of us swing around to pick me up. So I wasn't, like, out there with him by myself. And as I'm turning to get into the vehicle, dude took a picture of me. And I'm like, this man's gonna kill me.
Yeah, that's weird.
I'm like, good God.
But every single time that she's needed me, I've been there. I told her before, I was like, I don't care what I'm doing. You need me, I got you. And I've been there for her every single time, ever since then.
Right.
And that's when she apparently established me. Without me knowing, apparently I'm the work husband.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You said it first.
Yeah. Establishing, we're pretty much like work married.
Nice.
Yes.
So, Flo, tell me what depression feels like.
My depression? I don't know. It's definitely not as people depict it. I mean, I don't lay in bed all day. Although sometimes I do. I like being lazy as fuck. That has nothing to do with me being depressed. I don't know. Sometimes I'll just straight up lose interest in things I'm extremely passionate about. There was one time I went on hiatus from drawing for like 3 months. And it was the weirdest thing for me. But every time I went to draw, I couldn't bring myself to do it. I was just like, eh. I was like,
so, like, what were some of did you have, like, physical symptoms of depression?
It's really hard to tell the difference between, like, my anxiety and my depression and my other medical issues because I'm always freaking tired. I'm always anxious. I have anxiety about my anxiety. I have insomnia, which I've had since I was, like, 11. So it's really hard to differentiate, like, what starts and what ends, you know?
Got you. Yeah, it just kind of blends into one.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, what does depression feel like to you? I mean, you've obviously been anxious with what you've been through.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Do
like,
you get depressed? Do you feel sad? Do
oh,
you?
well, for me, it's not necessarily being sad. It's more like, I don't think really much on the positive side, and it's more of a sense of, you know, looking at it as whereas like I'm not hungry, I'm constantly tired. I don't have the energy to want to do anything. I'll start something, but then when it hit, I'll feel like I'll know when it hits because it's literally me not finishing anything that I started, and it happens. It happens a lot, and I noticed that in myself where it's just like, wow, I did this like 6 months ago. I still haven't. Damn, something's really wrong with me. I mean, plus it also doesn't help the fact that I'm also forgetful as well. So I mean, sometimes when I hit and it stops, it's just like, man, I don't.
That is actually like one of those untalked about things with like anxiety and depression, forgetting shit.
Yes,
Because let me tell you, you can become forgetful as fuck.
Oh yeah.
it happens. Yeah, if my head were a screw on, I completely misplace it. I
Yeah.
really would, because there are times where I would sit there and I'd ask my girlfriend, and I'd be like, "Wow, well, hey, honey, where's this?" And she'd be like, "You're an idiot. It's right over there where you put it." Like, well, I don't remember, so and it kicks in, and I just realize it myself, and I'm just sitting there scrambling throughout my entire house, and I'm just like, it's been here this whole time where I knew I left it, and I thought I left it, or sometimes it'll get to the point where if I put something somewhere. And I'd be like, no, I put it on the table. And meanwhile, I didn't put it on the table. I put it on my bedroom dresser. And I'd be like, I know. I'll say it with conviction in my voice. No, I know I put it here. And I just completely forget. And I'm just like, no.
Why the fuck are you over here?
Yeah, like, why? I was just trying to prove myself right. Why? But it happens. It's a lot of things. Like I said, it's for me, the biggest one was lack of hunger. Constantly tired, sleeping a lot. Like there were times where I just wanted to come home and just sleep the rest of the day away and not do anything.
I mean, has anyone had mornings where like you wake up and you just like, the desire's not there. Like I don't want to get out of bed.
Yeah, the
I
motivation.
don't want to go to work. I just don't.
That happens often. I mean, even though like don't get me wrong, like I love the job I'm doing, but at the end of the day, there's times where I'm just like, man, fuck this job. Fuck everybody in it, and I don't care. I want to sleep.
How bad do I need money?
Yeah.
Do you? I feel like the little fucking Barbara Walters here. Have either one of you experienced symptoms where you have like self-hate, like or feel like a failure?
A lot.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Really?
I feel like sometimes like I'll use myself or throw myself out there, and sometimes I like in certain relationships, a failure in that, lack of confidence in the way I look, an ability to put on a simple clothes and people be like, wow, that looks nice today. Like, yeah, no, that's cool. I understand, but no, I don't feel it today. I don't. Somebody can sit there and walk up to you and tell you you're the most amazing person in the entire world, and you look like so smoking hot, and I'd be like, nah, I'm alright. It's not like anything crazy, but it's just it's the lack of confidence and the lack of motivation to want to have it, to be like, hey, you know what? I'm not feeling it today.
Yeah.
I'm not. It's just, and it happens with a lot of people. It's a struggle sometimes, and sometimes you can't really figure out how to get out of that rut because it just feels like you're in a rut and you don't know how to get out of it.
It's like thick, heavy mud. You're just trying
like
to.
the wheels, like a rusty wheel trying to turn.
Yeah.
And
you feel that same way?
Oh, yeah.
From time to time.
I have a lot of a lot of self-hatred. Ugh.
Really?
I do, actually. That's like one of my biggest things. And again, that has to do with like my anxiety and depression, but I also feel as if that comes with a lot of generational trauma, which we'll talk about at some other point. But I had brought something up earlier about how my mother had said something and all I could hear was like my grandmother, because that was like shit that she would say to my mom.
Right.
And then my mom like will accidentally say shit like that to me, and it's like, oh, okay, fuck me, I guess. Ugh. And then I become super fucking paranoid to the point where, like, I hyper focus on it. And I have made myself legitimately sick doing that shit.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I am the smallest person in my family, like, weight-wise. And it's always been this weird, like, thing with me of, oh my God, if I'm not careful, this is going to happen to me, and I'm not going to be healthy, and I'm just going to have even more issues with the way I look, and that sort of thing. So, you can almost call it an eating disorder. It wasn't exactly, but I was pretty fucking close to it. Where there would be times where I would just go fucking days without eating, and everyone's just like, oh, well, why aren't you eating? I'm not fucking hungry.
I think the biggest one ultimately is when, people think like you're actually legitimately starving, but at the same time, though, it's like you're not hungry.
Exactly.
That's the biggest thing. Like, I would look at people and be like, I'm just legitimately not hungry. Like, you can hear my stomach growling sometimes, but it's just like, I'm not hungry.
Yes.
Like, I don't feel like I need to eat anything because my body's just like in such... It's like when you hit that point, and it's just like your body's just coasting. It, like, usually when normal people, they'd be like, all right, I'm hungry, let me eat. All right, get me back up there. And then, but with people that have like this depression, anxiety, and things of that nature, and it's like you have that lack of hunger, and it's like your body just coasting to be like, hey, you know what? I'm not full, but I'm not hungry, and I'm not starving either because I don't feel it. Like, usually I'll eat when I'm hungry. If any normal person would, I'm hungry, stomach's growling, I'll eat. Cool. But for someone who's having those highs and lows and ups and downs, and it's just like when they hit that point, and it's just like your body's just, all right, cool, we're good. We're good. Don't worry about it. We're good. We got other shit to worry about. We're good.
Yeah.
I also have instances where, like, I will just straight up, like, binge eat. Like I am never freaking full. I'm just like,
crush your entire fridge.
Exactly. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with me? I was like, am I just bored? I was like, no, because I still feel hungry. And it's just like, I feel as if this is just my mind telling me that I'm hungry.
Yeah, like there's
What are you
sometimes where you'll
plotting?
eat food and then, like, for example, like a bowl of cereal on a good day, it'll be like, oh, that's filling, whatever. On a bad day, not hungry. On a day where you like legitimately feel hungry, you'll crush like 4 or 5 bowls of cereal.
Fruity Pebbles.
Fucking Special K.
Captain Crunch. They didn't have Lieutenant.
Right. So I was watching the Today Show this morning, and you remember Cyndi Lauper?
Yes.
Rock. You don't know Cyndi Lauper?
Unfortunately, I'm not, with those type of shows, up to today's show, so you're gonna have to...
Well, Cyndi Lauper was a singer.
Ah, okay.
Time After Time, True Colors.
Ah, okay.
Girls just want to have fun.
Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
Okay.
Yeah. She was talking about her, which I would have never thought in a million years. She grew up in a very bad home. Like her stepdad tried to rape her and her sister. So she got the fuck out of that situation at age 17, got an apartment by herself in New York, and was just, depressed all the time. She said she cleaned out the cupboard under the sink so she could go in there and just close the doors, and it made her feel better when she was in there. And then, she became successful with her music, right? She started this one band called Blue Angels, and she was the lead singer of that. But then one of the bandmates and another one of the bandmates, it was 2 guys, came at her one night after the show with their girlfriends, and they grabbed her and held her down and put sex toys inside of her. So, like, just the trauma that she went through. And then when she became successful, she never felt good enough. And, she was Grammy winner, MTV Video Award winners, but she never felt good enough. And she said her record label always made her not feel good enough because you didn't bring enough trophies home, you know? You didn't da 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 da. So she had a real hard time, like after her career kind of hit that lull, you know? She said there was one day when she was living in a hotel in New York City and she stepped out on the balcony 2 feet. And she was 2 feet from just jumping. That's how bad her depression had gotten. And she said she still struggles with it from time to time, but you know, now she's married and she has a son, so she leans on family to, you know, help her through that. Like I feel that that's a support system. People, did either of you feel that you had a support system at the time or no, or?
I mean, my parents were definitely like my biggest support system just because, like I said, like you've met them. They're like the nicest freaking people. Weird as hell, but they're nice as fuck. And just, they've never made me feel ashamed about things or judged me for things. And like, I know a lot of the times I'm like, well, you're my parents, you have to. But they really don't. Fucking parents don't have to do shit for you. I mean, I have come in contact with people with the shittiest parents, and I'm just like, oh, wow. I was like, I don't understand. Like, it's such a weird foreign concept to me, parents not loving their kids.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I was like, my parents are great. I was like, oh.
Did you have a support system, or how did you get through that?
Well, I mean, honestly, I mean, I can't say that I had family. There's, you know, my father who somewhat understood because he did somewhat of the same work, but not really. He wasn't in the military, but he did serve with his local PD.
Ooh, to slightly cut you off, because this is like a big thing with Honey Bat. Like, with you being Hispanic, is it like you don't talk about it? You don't talk about mental health?
No. For me, it's I can talk about it. I'm totally comfortable talking about it.
No, I meant with the family, like...
Oh, with the family, yes and no. And I say that in a sense because the thing is, it's like okay, what I know it sounds weird to say, but in my mind, it's just my opinion. It's not a fact, you know. But it's just something that certain people deal with different situations that, regardless of whoever's in your family, may not experience at all. You know, so like a prime example being like all my experiences was in the military, and I didn't have a lot of family members that were in the military, so they didn't fully understand. They grasped the concept of it, but didn't understand the magnitude of it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's one thing that I've always preached about is being able to understand the magnitude and the concept of it. Like, you can understand the concept that I'm going through something, going through depression, going through anxiety, but you wouldn't understand the magnitude of it because you've never experienced what I experienced. So it's different. It's like I said, it's different for everybody. My support system was fellow veterans, wasn't my family. You know, and for me, it was something to the effect of, you know, I could talk about it, but they're not really going to understand it.
Yeah.
You know, when I talk to a fellow veteran, a fellow combat veteran, they'd be like, yes, I understand completely, and I know exactly what you feel. Yeah. And this is the steps that you can take. What I've always told people, try to find different ways. If you feel one way is not working for you, try to find another. And that's the way that ever since I started finding that support system and people that actually understood what I went through and what I was going through and where I was coming from, that's when they connected more with me. You know, for the people that didn't understand, they could just assume. You know, some people did jump to conclusions and go, yes, we already know what you're talking about. We've seen it already. We've heard it. And it'd just be like, no, but you've never been through what I've been through.
My trauma is just like your trauma. No one's trauma is the same.
No, everybody's trauma is different. And the thing is trying to find somebody, regardless whether it be civilian or military, it doesn't matter, is trying to find somebody that can understand you the most and the best. Because the thing is, if you just try and vent to somebody that doesn't clearly understand what you've been through, what you've seen, what you've experienced, they're not going to understand the concept or the magnitude of it. And they're just going to be like, well, maybe you should try this way. And it's not like it's not saying that they're blowing you off. It's just that them at least showing an attempt that they care and but they don't grasp it.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like sometimes for me, it's trying to find somebody you can best connect with.
It's like those people. Have you just tried being happy?
Oh, God.
Yeah, you think I don't want to be fucking happy? Like,
Yeah.
but why I bring this up is because Honeybat is predominantly Puerto Rican and Ecuadorian, and his childhood trauma, everyone knew it was going on, but no one talked about it. You weren't supposed to talk about it because you didn't talk about adult things, grown-up things. You stayed out of grown-ups' business. It was shameful. Like, no. Like, it didn't happen.
Swept under the rug. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he is still dealing with it. It, like, severely damaged him. And, like, despite how quiet, like, he is, he will have these bouts of, like, horrendous anger. And not towards me. Like, it's never towards me. And he's like, I never feel threatened by him.
It's a venting session.
But he'll get so upset with himself, and he'll blame himself for a lot of things. And legitimately, I wish I would have saved it, but he completely demolished a fucking guitar. Like, he tore that shit up. And it helped, but I'm just like, oh my God, this is so not healthy for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also, it's something that I didn't want to take away from him, because who am I to say that isn't helping him,
Right.
you know?
It's hard to watch, but...
And I mean, he always, like, apologizes. Like, he's like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I'm not better. And I'm like, you don't need to be better, and you don't need to be sorry. Like, I appreciate you being sorry, especially if you're being a jackass. Like, sometimes I will unintentionally snap at people because of if I'm stressed or super anxious. And it's not an excuse. Your mental illness is not an excuse to be an asshole, but it does kind of explain it. So apologize. Like that, just apologize.
Yeah. And I mean, there's so many symptoms of anxiety and depression. I mean, and those can be scary alone. Just like the physical sensations that anxiety can do to your body. The whole shortness of breath. I know I had a constant numb, tingly right here in my face.
Yep.
Yeah, and I never thought it was going to go away. And then this arm constantly ached. It just constantly hurt.
This is it. I'm having a stroke.
Yeah.
This is it.
And, the symptoms are crazy. So, I mean, if you're someone out there who maybe comes across this video and you're pacing nervously back across the floor and you're like, that shit sounds like me, you're crying, feel like you're gonna freak out, you're what-ifing up a fucking storm, get help, right? Get some kind of help. It's
never assume you can do it on your own. That's the biggest one. Never assume you can do it on your own, because you can't. There are few and far between a lot of people that you're talking 1 in a million people that can figure it out for themselves, but not everybody is built like that. You can never assume that you're going to be able to do this on your own, because you can't.
Exactly.
And if anybody really tells you that I figured it out in like 3 days, they're lying to you.
And you don't have to, and you shouldn't have to.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, I know people look at me like I'm crazy because I'll sit there and walk around at work and I have this freaking rock. It's an obsidian rock, and I always keep it in my pocket. It brings me comfort. See, this is actual crystal healing, people. Don't use crystals to cure cancer. It doesn't work. But no, it helps me focus on something. Like, it gives me something to do, and it helps me focus. Like, okay, this is a solid object in my hand. I can rub it. It feels cool. Like, it's constant. It's constantly there. And it does help.
Yeah, I know. I've seen you with your rock, and you'll have it in your hand, just rubbing it. Meanwhile, you see me with my keychain and my Klonopin. So. coming out and going
see,
in
my
my
most
mouth.
common one is counting my fingers. Just start doing back and forth. I'll just start doing this, and I'll be like, all right, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And people will look at me like, what are you doing? And I'm just like, don't worry about it. You know, and that's just, for me, after I've done that for like a few times and my thumb gets tired and I'm just counting fingers, and I'll just be like, all right, now I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll sit there and just, all right, now I just crack it and it'll be all right.
Yeah, and I mean, there's no shame in it, right? I like, this was a very good, open conversation we had.
I mean, let's face it, most of Americans have freaking anxiety nowadays, and kids are getting younger and younger with their damn anxiety.
Yeah, I mean, especially the times we're living in, you know, the stress.
It's just a challenge for me. The way I look at it is just a challenge. Everyday life is a challenge, you know, and how you deal with it and how you handle it, whether you want to find solutions or not, or try to find ways to make yourself better, is the ultimate goal in trying to. Oh, what?
Oh no, just his phone. It's the Jetsons.
I am blowing up
You're not the
like
only one with the
crazy.
Jetsons.
Oh,
I have
know.
heard.
Oh my god.
It reminds me of the boss. I'm just
Yeah.
like,
The boss is always with the Jetsons. I'm like, what are you doing? And of
God.
course, he has a sound for every holiday.
Oh
You know?
gosh.
Yeah,
Wait,
I tried to
does
find
that-
one for Easter, but he couldn't figure it out.
does that mean he had a
Lord.
St. Patrick's Day one?
Bunny
I don't know if
bunny
it's true or
farts.
not.
I mean, they're popular.
I still don't understand Easter.
Honey, it's okay. We'll talk about that sometime in another show.
What is it, like zombie Jesus? Is that what they're worshiping?
Oh Lord, we'll talk about it in another show, honey.
Another show.
We got to get Flo back to the house and get her some medication.
No, I don't understand Catholics and Christians.
It's okay. We'll talk about it later. Anyway, we've been. Yeah, it's probably time to wrap up.
Yeah.
Did you have any final thoughts, Flo?
Look at my ill-gotten gain. This is what happens when you guilt motherfuckers.
Of course, the compliments of the work husband. Yeah.
No, seriously, I've wanted this thing for like 2 months.
Yeah, and all it took was a work argument and a work relationship to set it off to go, you know what, you can make it up to me by get me this. Alright, fine, whatever.
I'm just like, yay.
That's hilarious.
Let it be said that I'm not slightly manipulative. I've never lied about this.
She never has.
Any final thoughts?
Well, my final thoughts is in all honesty, just, you know, as long as you got the passion to want to get better, find different ways. If you feel one way is not working for you, there are always different ways and different paths you can take to help get better. But ultimately, you cannot do this on your own. You can't at all. There's no way that you can ever sit there and say that you can do this on your own. You can't. You need a support system, and to find someone who you can connect with that understands you the best and understands the concept and the magnitude of whatever issues that you have going on. And that way you can better understand and better find ways to better yourself, to live basically a normal life and live a happy life.
Yeah.
And please do not make retail workers your therapist. We're getting paid. We cannot escape you. We're not allowed to leave. I'm just saying.
Can't go away.
Yeah. So, like, in closing, I mean, no shame in taking medication. If you have to, by all means, do so. Use it until you can get maybe into a place where you can start thinking the positive thoughts on your own. But most importantly is you can feel better. Like, if you're out there watching this and you feel like you're the worst and no one's had it any worse than this, I can assure you every negative thought that you're thinking, I've had. Flo's had. The crayon. Has had.
Crayon.
The Crayola killer.
The Crayola killer.
We've had it. And there is hope and there is help and there's organizations that can help you.
Meditation is good too.
And meditation, all kinds of good stuff.
Freaking Jerry's final thoughts. Make sure you take care of yourself and each
And
other.
each other. All right. Let's put this to bed.
Yee! So this has been Hot Topic Flow.
And MiHi.
And the Crayola killer.
And we will see you
Next
next
time.
time.